Well, Bobby Hurley staying. Let's talk about it on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
Are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Hey guys, well, so much for all that worry. Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thank you guys for tuning in. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get an update when we post new content. Stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. You know, it was about 24 hours ago that I was wondering whether or not Bobby Hurley was going to stay at Arizona State. And there was all this drama circulating the university once again. At ASU, always something university. There was uncertainty with the basketball program, which feels like the last thing we need when it comes to the basketball program, because we rarely ever compete. And when we do, it just falls apart. But I mean, it felt like a thing, I suppose. But then came along today, or yesterday, I should say. And Bobby Hurley, after sitting here wondering on the podcast whether or not he would come back and debating whether or not I would blame him if he decided to leave, decides to come back. 2-year extension. He will be locked up through the 2025-2026 season. And I've got some thoughts on it. We're going to dive into my thoughts. We're going to talk about what it means moving forward and then the state of Arizona State basketball. But my thoughts, I'm happy. I am happy. Here's why. Bobby Hurley, while not the most successful college basketball coach in the whole world, has still found pretty good success with Arizona State. And he's got 4 21 seasons with the team. He's coming off his best year with a 23-13 season. They won a game in the tournament and then were knocked in the round of 64. They were competitive throughout the year. They had some really big wins over Michigan and Creighton and Arizona. They had a really fun team to watch. This was one of the most fun years I can remember in a while watching Arizona State Sun Devils basketball. You had the Cambridge brothers and Warren Washington and Frankie Collins and DJ Horn and so many other guys that were making it fun to watch Arizona State Sun Devils basketball, which is not something we get to say very often. More often than not, this is a very forgettable program, and it just kind of is what it is, I suppose. But Hurley has found a way to make us competitive more often than not, I would say. 4 seasons with 20-plus wins, 4 seasons under 500. It's just kind of what it is. I think that this ends up being a really good decision for Arizona State as long as the trend continues. When you look at his resume, it took him a couple years to get going naturally, as it would any coach to get their footing at a new university. And he was coming from Buffalo, so quite a jump in competition going from Buffalo to Arizona State. But he proceeded to have 3 consecutive 20-win seasons, including a 23-11 win season where they finished second in the Pac-12 and made the tournament in 2018-2019. They were getting ready in 2019-2020 to have another excellent run in the Pac-12. They were going to be a tournament team, and who knows what we could have done from there. It felt like a really good team. But they unfortunately ran into COVID, just like the rest of the world did, and there was no tournament that year. They proceeded to win 25 games in the next 2 seasons. Things were going down. Arizona State felt like it was right back to where it started. And I know that I was one of the people, for sure, that was willing to chase Hurley out of town and say, hey, man, thanks for what you did, but it's not working out. We need to move on and try something different. I was absolutely one of those people. That there was a lot of people that were claiming for that. I probably was near the front of that line. I'll totally own it. Was not a Bobby Hurley fan. he comes out, has a great year. They capture lightning in a bottle with all these transfers, and they have this really fun season. And now you're going to see what's next. And I do like that they're bringing him back, because you've seen before that he put together multiple successful seasons in a row before COVID happened, and COVID derailed that. And if there's any reason, or if there's anything that can derail momentum, and I will say, yeah, that's understandable, rather than like feeling like you're blaming something. I think COVID is an acceptable understanding of why something was derailed for Arizona State. But if they are back to where he was, then this should be a tournament team pretty much every year, which I feel is a reasonable expectation at Arizona State. I don't think it's asking too much to go to March Madness every year. You're a Power 6 team in college basketball. You are one of the biggest programs in the country, and you seem to be on the upswing, hopefully, knock on wood. If that's the case, March Madness feels very reasonable. Or at a very least, just like what you did this year, where you were part of the last four in, and were kind of on that cusp for most of the year. Hopefully, we don't have to sweat it out as much moving forward. Bottom line, though, this is definitely the right decision. This is definitely a good decision for Arizona State to bring Hurley back. I definitely was a little concerned with the comments that Michael Crow had made about Desert Financial Arena and everything, and not wanting to make the upgrades and whatnot. I wouldn't have blamed Hurley if he was turned off by those comments, but I guess it wasn't that big a deal to him. He ends up signing that 2-year extension. We've got him for at least 2 more years moving forward to see where he can take this program next. I'm really, really excited to see what is in store for Arizona State Sun Devils basketball, because if they are on the right trajectory, we could be in for a really fun stretch here moving forward. Got to talk to you guys real quick about our friends over at FanDuel, because right now, new customers with FanDuel will get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and it's the perfect time with March Madness and the NBA season going on. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to point scores, threes drained, and more. And FanDuel will let you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay, so don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back into our conversation. Let's talk about kind of how this came about, I suppose. I did go into a lot of this yesterday, so I don't want to rehash too much, but I do want to talk about the specifics of the contract. It's a 2-year deal. It's not a massive extension. It almost feels like a prove it deal, sort of, kind of, because he still has 3 years in total, the one that he had remaining plus the 2-year extension. So he still has 3 years on his contract. It does feel a little bit like a prove it deal. And I like the way that that's kind of structured. And the reason why I like that is because you want to make sure that Hurley is, in fact, on the right track, and that this isn't going to be a team that falls off, because they truly did capture lightning in a bottle here. 4 transfers come in. All 4 of them are starters for the vast majority of the season. All 4 of them are not just starters, but like beyond integral components to why you were so good this year. You take any of the 4 transfers away, being the Cambridge brothers, Warren Washington, and Frankie Collins, this is a much different basketball team. I don't think that you can take any of those 4, let alone multiple of them, or God forbid, all 4 of them, and have a similar result to what you did this year. They were all very important to what they contributed for Arizona State. And yes, you did have DJ Horn returning. You did have bench players like Jemiah Neal and Austin Nunez that were important for you as well. But this was a team that was so predicated off of the success that they were getting off of their transfers, that it does raise some concern moving forward about whether or not this is going to be a sustainable team or if they're going to slow down, because you will be losing the Cambridge brothers and Warren Washington. Technically, Devin Cambridge can return. I don't know if he will. I think he wanted to have one more college season playing with his brother on the same team. That seemed to be the way that it was going to go. But I don't think anyone would complain if he wanted to come back to Arizona State for another year at all. It was very important. But the bottom line here is it was a great season, but is this a one and done team? Because this is going to be a different team in 2023, 2024. You will have those young guys step up, like Jemiah Neal and Austin Nunez. Duke Brennan will be stepping up as well. Enoch Boayke transferred. I will talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. And then you'll have, I think I said DJ Horn returning. If not, DJ Horn should return. Frankie Collins should return. So there are some major returners coming back. You just are losing, 80% of your starting lineup. And that's never, ever easy to replace. Is there going to be significant backtracking? There should be a curve. There should be some speed bumps for this team as they try to adjust to such a veteran roster being shaken up now. It's not going to be as successful, more than likely. Who knows? Maybe Jemiah Neal and Austin Nunez come out and they end up being Pac-12 Player of the Year kind of players. I don't know. Who knows? Point is, the reason why I think a 2-year deal is smarter is because you have seen the wheels fall off the wagon before. Again, I think COVID is a more than understandable reason why something like that would happen. But if it were to happen again, then it's not a one-time thing. It is a common issue, because those teams had Remy Martin and they had Kamani Lawrence and they had well-established teams that he was using, and then they had to do their rebuilding and everything. So if this happens again, now it is a short-term thing. You can get out of it and move on. If it's not, then you just reward him again with another contract extension. This one maybe a little more lucrative, maybe a little longer, but you let him prove to you that this was not a one-year team. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a once in a 10-year kind of team. Like, you're hoping that he can continue to take this momentum moving forward, and like I said, turn you into an annual contender in the tournament. I think that's what we all want to see. We're still not sitting here expecting to win the NCAA tournament, but first of all, we would like to see a true NCAA win. I will count his win in the last four in this past bracket against Nevada. I will count that. I absolutely will. That was a tournament. But I know there's a lot of people who won't. The naysayers and the doom and gloom and the negative Nancy's, I guess, is the nicest thing I can call you guys. We'll say that Bobby Hurley hasn't had a tournament win. That's fine. I think we can both technically be correct in that standard. But we would all love to see him get to a Sweet 16. That would be so cool to get to a Sweet 16. Even just to get out of the round of 64 would be awesome. Baby steps. Hopefully this was the start of a really good baby step for him, but this is where we're going to wait and see and find out. Want to talk to you guys one more time about our friends over at the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. My friends Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout the college hoops landscape during March Madness. It's Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you're getting your podcasts. Let's talk about the landscape of Sun Devils basketball moving forward. Now that we have our coach in the foreseeable future, for 3 more years at least, I'm curious what this does for you. There's going to be a lot of turnover on this team. And I'm not just talking about the departures of the Cambridge brothers and Warren Washington. Enoch Boayke entered a transfer portal yesterday. Who knows what's going on with Marcus Bagley? Absolutely no idea. If anyone does know, let me know. I look him up. I literally can't find anything. To my knowledge, he's not in the transfer portal, but I also don't even know if he's on the team at this point. And with the fact that he's played 5 games for you in the last 2 years for various reasons, I don't think you can count on Marcus Bagley moving forward, right, wrong, or indifferent. I would love to be proven wrong if he is on this team, if he is committed, if he is healthy. He's a former 5-star kid. I would love for him to dominate, but I won't hold my breath. That would be 5 players that you're trying to move on from. 3 of whom were starters, one of whom is a former super highly recruited kid. And Boayke was also a top 50 prospect, but that's a lot to replace. And you have other seniors as well that are leaving. Luther Muhammad and Alonzo Gaffney are out of eligibility. They'll be gone. Those were 2 of your most important bench players. You've got several unknowns here with Arizona State. And there will be the transfer portal to attack. And with the success they just had, I don't know why you wouldn't go right back to that well. There's going to be a lot of questions about, can this team do it again? Like I said, is this a flash in the pan, a one and done team because of all the transfers and like just everything came together at the right time? Or can you take this momentum and push it forward? Huge Jemiah Neal fan, huge Austin Nunez fan. I'm excited to see what they can do as full-time players. I think that Jemiah Neal looks like I will geek out just this once. I think he looks like an NBA player if he can continue to develop. He's obviously not there yet. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's number 1 pick. I'm not saying he's draftable. I'm saying that the pieces are there. The upside is there. Let's get him there. He looks like a future star for Arizona State. Austin Nunez is a dynamic shooter, and we really missed him in the last month of the year when he had missed it with a concussion. Hopefully he's back and healthy and better than ever. Hopefully Duke Brennan can take steps forward as a full-time player. Hopefully they bring in some more transfers. Hopefully DJ Horn and Frankie Collins have their best seasons yet next year. This will be a very important year for Arizona State. Yes, Bobby Hurley is extended, but I still don't know that the Hurley era is a lock for the entirety of this contract or even moving forward. Because if you do regress, that's going to be troublesome for the progress that you're trying to make, but also for Hurley's status for the team. And who knows what you do. I don't know contract details. Even if I had numbers in front of me, I'm not the smartest dude when it comes to reading contracts. So I don't know front loading, back loading, contract stuff like that. I can look at numbers and pretend I know, but I don't know. So with Hurley, I don't know if this is a 2-year deal, but you can get out of it in 1 year, or if you can get out of it in 2 years, or if you have to go through the whole thing. I don't know what your plan is. But if you don't make that progress forward, you have to start having hard conversations. If he maintains the success, then obviously you coast through it. If you build on it, and that's where I think you're heading. I truly do. Again, I say this so much, and I feel like I can't emphasize it enough. Our expectations are not national championship. They're not winning the Pac-12. They're not consistently winning 25 plus games. We want to be a fun team to watch, to go out on a Thursday or Saturday night and enjoy the vibes at Desert Financial Arena, hang out with your fellow students and alumni, watch a basketball team, get loud, dance in the curtain of distraction, listen to the music, and have a good time. That's our expectations. We're not a basketball school. We never have been. We probably never will be. We just want to have a good time. This should be very attainable for Hurley. And this upcoming year will probably be the most important year of his cycle with Arizona State so far. Going into year 9, he's obviously been here a minute. He's had 4 good years. He's had 4 bad years. We're about to find out what he's got in store for us for the remainder of his contract at a minimum, or maybe moving forward. Who knows? Maybe Bobby Hurley ends up coaching at this program for another 10 years. Maybe he's gone after this upcoming season. We're going to find out a lot about this team moving forward. But I do like the foundation that's in place. I really like Horn and Jemiah Neal to be stars for this team. I really like the upside of some of the other guys that are returning. I will be keeping my eyes close on the transfer portal. I got to look into signing day for college basketball. I don't know when that is. I don't know what's going on with signing, but I'll take a look at that. I'll take a look at transfer stuff. I used to not really be a big basketball person, if I can totally be honest. Really did not care about basketball for a long time. With this podcast, I started to get more invested into the Arizona State Sun Devils basketball team. And this past season makes me want to just go all in with the Sun Devils. Like I loved almost every second of this season, with the exception of frustrating losses and, 1/2 games kind of thing. This was still a really fun season. I don't want it to stop. I hope it keeps going. I think it can keep going. We're going to find out. There's potential here. Let's see if it's all potential or if we can make something out of it. But congratulations, Coach Hurley, for getting your extension. I hope I speak for most of us when I say we're happy you're back. But here's to 2023, 2024, being competitive, having fun, and putting out a good quality basketball team. That's all I got for you guys right now. I will be picking back up coverage for spring football. That was originally the plan for this episode before the Bobby Hurley news dropped. So tomorrow should be focusing on more spring updates for you guys. I know that some of the transfers have continued to dominate, especially Xavier Guillory, who we're going to have a serious conversation about if he keeps doing what he's doing. It's 4 dominant practices for him now. But to stay in touch with everything going on with the Sun Devils, wherever you get your podcast, hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you get an update when we post new content. Stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Till next time, guys, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.